Hi everybody, today we're working on a very tired 1995 Volkswagen Jetta Mark III. This car needs new strut bearings. The old ones, the rubber is shrunk down or whatever, and they're bouncing around. The car could not get in alignment because of this. So we're going to go ahead and just pull out and replace the strut bearings. First we need to remove the wheels, obviously. If I reach in there and pull on the strut, I can feel it flopping around. It's got a good, 5 millimeters worth of play. So this requires taking the struts out of the car. So the first thing we'll do is pull the brake line out of the little retaining bracket on the back side of the strut. Next you need to remove both of the strut lower bolts. These are 19 millimeter bolts, and there's two of them. You can tap the bolts out with a hammer. You might need to lift up on the bottom of the hub there, as it's the weight's going to be on the bolt. Then you just pull the strut right out. Next is the strut bearing bolt. I believe these are 24 millimeter. So support the strut from underneath with your hand as you unbolt, and then just pull it out. Super easy. Not only is the rubber worn out, but you can see all of the play in the bearing. This is pretty shot, so we'll go ahead and take this apart. You're going to need a couple of spring compressors. I'll post a link in the description of the tool that I prefer to use. These are good quality compressed spring compressors, and I've used them even on like a Honda Pilot. They work even on larger car springs. Good high quality material. I'm very carefully using an air tool to compress the springs down here. I would recommend just using a regular wrench if you're not comfortable with air tools. But basically you just want to compress evenly on both sides until the point that the spring is no longer touching the perch on the top. The problem with these struts is there's one more retaining nut in there, but it's not hex. It just has two flat depressions on it. Unless you have a special tool to get it out, it's kind of hard to get enough purchase to break it free. So you kind of have to improvise. You can use a tool with a pointy tips like a needle nose pliers, or even like a tip of a screwdriver and a hammer. There, that finally worked. Once it's loose, you can back it out the rest of the way by hand. You can also get a special strut nut socket. I'll post a link. Now we can pull off the old bearing and swap it for the nice new one. We can just put it back on using some bent nose pliers or your screwdriver or whatever. It doesn't need to be super tight, just a little bit past snug. This is going to be pretty much cinched down with the bearing bolt anyway. So we'll go ahead and loosen up the spring compressors and get the spring out of here. Just a little bit at a time on each side. You don't want to loosen one side. Now we'll go ahead and put it back on the car. Just stick it back in the hole up on top there. First few threads by hand, and then finish up with an impact tool or your wrench or whatever. You want this to be really tight. Basically you're squishing down the rubber, making it nice and tight. Then you can work the knuckle back into place. Put the bolts back in. Tighten them back up. Put the brake line back into the bracket. Put the wheels back on the car. And that's basically it. Next, go get an alignment.